I give my mom lots of hugs because I know the day I have to come out is the day she'll stop loving me. I'm 20 years old, living with my parents in a third world Muslim country. And I am gay. I left my religion too because of it, because I couldn't reconcile it with my sexuality. There's not much to say. My parents are homophobic. They're old and in their early 50s. I know they're not going to change, because we live in an environment surrounded by religion that compels them to be homophobic. And they'll never leave religion for me to reconcile the fact that I'm gay. They have deep relations with religion born out of lifelong hardships and traumas and losses. They will never accept me for who I am. My culture encourages and accepts arranged marriages. In a few years, the topic of marriage will be brought up, and I'll be forced into a relationship that I don't want to be with. I'll be unhappy and sad. And then the topic of having children will be brought up, and I don't want that either. But I know at some point, I'll be pressurized into doing so. I'll refuse and that will cause tension and unhappiness. I don't want that. I plan to leave my country and live the life I want to live in peace. But I love my parents. I love my mom, despite her flaws. I love my siblings. I love them all. So when I think about the fact that in a few years, when I'm forced to come out to them to avoid a relationship, I am reminded that their affection for me has a shelf life. That at some point in time, they will no longer love me. So I go out of my way to hug my mom. A lot. I'll randomly show up and hug her really hard, and I'll try to hold on for a while. She thinks it's annoying and often tells me to grow up. But I want to hug her. I know she'll never let me hug her in a few years. That she will hate me. It would have been easier for me if I wasn't gay. Even if I left my religion, it wouldn't have mattered, because they would never be able to know. But how would they not know about this? I know I cannot force myself to live in a relationship that I do not want. Sometimes I hate myself for being the way that I am. I've spent a lot of life wrestling the fact that if I wasn't gay, none of this would be happening. I have a lot of mental health issues because of it. It makes my life hard and not worth living. I find myself considering the second option. Remaining closeted and following their whims. But how can I reconcile so much pain and suffering for someone whose love is conditional? My love for my mom and my dad and my siblings is not conditional. I love them. Their love for me is conditional. They wouldn't hesitate to cut me out. I'm so tired now. The more I think about it, the more it pulls me into a deep depression. I've tried to reconcile with this fact and move on and focus on myself. I've tried villainizing my family so that it hurts less. But I know they're not to blame here. They are the product of a religion that tells them to act this way. I've never told anyone about the inappropriate relationship I had with my teacher. I, F17, have never told anyone about the weird relationship I had with my ukulele teacher. I started taking ukulele lessons at 15 every week after school. My teacher was a 54-year-old man. The first few weeks everything was normal. It then started getting weird with him making inappropriate jokes. It progressed to him flirting with me and frequently talking about the deed. We rarely ever actually played the ukulele, we would just sit and talk to each other. I would flirt back because I was too young and naive to realize this was creepy and loved the attention I got from him. I became infatuated with him. I have no relationship with my dad and was looking for someone to fill that void. He would call me inappropriate names like bad girl and would give me weed so I would smoke with him. I continued to go to these lessons for a little over a year. I started to realize I shouldn't continue going, but wasn't sure how I could end it because we had created this weird and inappropriate bond. One time when I showed up to my lesson he was severely intoxicated. He could barely talk or form a sentence. He was acting extremely weird. I smoked some of his weed and began to feel very anxious being there. That day I decided I'd never see him again. I later texted him saying I was taking a break from taking lessons to study for finals. I never saw him again. I have no interest in ever telling anyone IRL, just the internet. Also for anyone wondering, no, he was not married. He does have kids. I'm starting to think I don't want to lose my virginity. Sure, I've been reading loads of stuff on what to expect, what not to expect, what to do, what to avoid, how to prepare and how to treat the other person. But I'm starting to think this is way too much for me to care about it. Let's begin with context. I'm a cis, straight man who's been alive for some 20 sun cycles. I'm also among the greatest virgins alive. By that I mean I've never, French, kissed a girl, never had a girlfriend, and, obviously, never had sex. Now, since I'm straight and since I belong to the Xi team of humanity, sexual desire is a constant thing in my life. I obviously would like to have sex. But then there is the stuff people talk about, the problems of the first time, the stress, the many things to keep track of, what could go wrong. And that's a bit overwhelming. It gets to the point where I personally start to think it's much easier to live a forever alone lifestyle and masturbate to ease the sexual pressures. It's billions of times easier and less stressful than having to go through the emotional roller coaster that sex seems to be, not to mention the courting of somebody to get to the sex part. Sure, I know what I should do. Make her pleasure a priority, do plenty of foreplay, Give her the attention she should have, not focus on my own pleasure because that one is probably guaranteed and all that. But the extras people like to put in the fucking story make me nervous. Those people have actually gone through sex, they have, by definition, more experience in the field. And then they have the gall to tell me to relax. Oh, sure, I should fucking relax after you told me about all the possible ways I can go wrong in this shit. Many thanks and many fuck you, too. So with all that stuff they talk about, I start thinking maybe my idea of how I should act is not that accurate. Puta que pariah, now? Fuck this shit, I should probably sign up to be a priest. At least I'll have a personal obligation not to engage in sex, which, hey, I'm pretty good at, considering my 20-year-long virginity. Maybe this is me unconsciously trying to get validation and encouragement from random people on the internet to not give up on the idea of having sex. But I don't really give a shit. The web is built on people stroking their egos. After all, one person doing it subconsciously is not really gonna make a difference, will they? Well, this is how I'm maybe losing my will to do the act, despite still wanting to. Fucking, I should probably stick to fapping. Worst mother. My husband told me today that I am the worst mother. He said, why can't you be like every other mother and have it together? You only have one child, not more than one. I don't take my little one to the grocery store or park or even to a restaurant by myself because it gives me anxiety. Instead we play in the backyard, when it is just me and the little. I do curbside pickup or delivery rather than take our little one to the grocery store. I make food at home or again do curbside pickup for food. I'm not certain how this makes me the worst mother ever. I work and take care of our little one on my off days. That's it. I get house chores done as I can, but it is difficult with a toddler. My baby is safe. He is loved beyond measure, he is not neglected or abused. He is well taken care of by me and his nanny. The comment of being the worst mother is the straw that broke the camel's back. I want a divorce. I just want to walk away from this marriage. My love language is words of affirmation and my husband does nothing but criticize me and put me down. I'm done. I masturbate to someone I shouldn't. A couple years ago I was at the mother-in-law's place and everyone else stepped out for a bit. I accidentally cut my finger. And while looking for band-aids I happened to find a pretty big dildo and bottle of lube. I've definitely looked at her differently ever since, and find myself trying to sneak peeks. I jerk to the thought of her using the toilets. Weird, I know.